don't delay.
Facebook, YouTube streams,
Scrolling through your daily memes. Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
keeping it real, it's what we do.
So tune in now and join our crew.
Lights moving through the screen, click subscribe, don't be mean. Upbeat chatter, it's our routine.
Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Gurltaux is who we are.
Come hang with us on your tablet,
Phone or screen, anywhere Girl Talks can be seen.
Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Update stories, laugh and cry. It's Girl Talk, so don't question why. It's the show that you'll adore. Come back daily to get some more.
Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Gurltaux is who we are. Come hang with us on your tablet, phone or screen. Anywhere Girl Talks can be seen.
Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Gurltaux, log in now, watch our show. Likes and comments, let them flow. Every day we're on our way. Girl Talk Show is here to stay.
Girl Talk Show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Walking down this road tonight.
Hello. Hey,
Talking
we're going
about
to
the
end
things
this
we
music
fight.
right now early.
Addiction.
And how is everybody doing? Hey, we're here.
Hello.
Hi, it's Tuesday. I wasn't
It's
going to let it
only
go to that second
Tuesday.
song, so I really hate that I started it and ended it that abruptly. As we were just discussing, like I really hate it when somebody's playing music and like in their car or in the house or whatever, and they might be DJing or putting a playlist on or picking what they're going to play. But I am one of those people that like I want, once the song starts, unless you end it real fast and you switch to another one. But once a song starts, I want it to finish out. Like I need it to finish out. And I think it's my OCD or whatever. Which is,
But what if it's a song that you don't like?
even if it's a song I don't like,
Are you
I let it
serious?
finish.
Oh no, see, I will. That I will.
Now, if it's
like
now
if
the
I'm just
difference
listening
though,
to a random playlist and some song comes on and I'm like, yeah, I don't like this.
but if the difference is if it's right when it starts. Like if you,
oh, right,
if you,
yeah, that's
if
what
you
I
end it
mean.
ri-
I don't mean
but if
halfway
I-
through.
But
and
if
then
I
be
let
like,
it
"Eh."
go and it's like
Yeah.
halfway through, I let the song
Yeah.
finish. But if I catch it, like our song just started, our second one, I ended it right away. So it's not quite the same. It started a little more than I would have liked to have. I wanted to catch it beforehand. I
Right.
am working on getting those separated so I can only play one if I want to, or a 30-second piece.
Right.
But we were running late, so I didn't want to. I'm sorry, I was eating a sandwich. Make me a sandwich. But I think it's partly the OCD aspect because, like, even if I'm playing a game on my phone and I have something I need to go do, go to bed, whatever it is, I have to finish the game first. Because I feel like I've left something unfinished. So I'll just finish if it's a life issue and I've died, I don't go back.
Right.
I'm done now, so I can
Right.
go to bed or I can go do whatever it is I needed to do. But I just don't like things left unfinished. And And I mean, on something like that, that's totally stupid. Absolutely. I can't go to bed because I'm playing a game on my phone.
I
Like,
still have dice left on Monopoly Go.
yeah, I can't.
That's how I am. Like, I'm like, dude, I got 600 more dice. Hold on. And in the interim, you're winning more dice, which keeps you playing longer. And I'm like, oh gosh.
I'm never going to stop. What am I going to do? Anyway, hello. My name's Tori, and I am the host of Girl Talks. And welcome to our show. We hope that you will I can't even talk. Continue to come here. Let me center my so I set that up when I was like moved over here or over here. I guess I was moved more over here. So it's automatically set to that one now. And so I have to move it. Anyway, yours is set like perfectly. It goes right to the perfect spot every single time. No problem.
That's funny.
It's only mine because I haven't reset the main direction, whatever. But anyway, I'm Tori and I am the host of Girl Talks. And we talk about just about anything. We don't keep things off the table. We can discuss anything and everything. And you may or may not like it at times. I try not to throw out the F-bomb, but it is what it is. I do throw out the F-bomb. Speaking of the F-bomb, this is something that I have been wanting to show you. Remember that video that I played for you last night on Megyn Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
And I had been looking for it the other day. I had been looking and I couldn't find it. So I found it. So we are going to play that one. That way we can at least finish that topic because we had kind of left that one undone at whatever point in time. But I do want to talk about that part of it because that part of it. Oh, shut up. That part of it was about them not voting for ending women, ending the men in women's sports and men in women's spaces, the transgender issue. And it's really not about, and that's what people are misunderstanding. It's really not about the transgender issue. It's about men in women's spaces, regardless of how they identify. Like, it doesn't matter if you wear a dress or don't wear a dress. Men should not be in women's spaces and taking away from women. If you have a man that identifies as a woman, the reality is he is still male. So he can still outperform and outdo a female. And this issue is not because there's a million of these things happening. It shouldn't be happening once, period. It's not about how many there are. It's about that it shouldn't be happening at all. And you got to stop something fairly quickly or it will be millions. It will be tons. And was an open door by doing this to get a lot of males that really aren't transgender just to be allowed into women's locker rooms, at the gym, at work, and into women's sports. The 50-some-year-old man that identifies as the 8-year-old girl on the 8-year-old girls swim team or whatever. Like, that's disgusting. And the fact that they allowed it because, we got to be nice. I don't know. I think it's gross and it needs to be stopped. Anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say.
I mean,
to it.
like, there's, yeah, that's like you said it. It's not like, I don't care what people want to identify as or, think that they are or whatever. 'Cause those things, in my opinion, it's no different than like religious beliefs or your just belief systems in general. Like those are internal, right?
Mhm.
So if you believe you're a cat, well, great. I mean, believe you're a cat, but don't
Use a
expect
litter
to
box at your house, not at my
force
work.
that. Yeah, and don't expect the world around you to conform because number one, it's a very, very, very small portion of the population. That's number one. How it has gotten so much attention.
Well, and I
It
think a big part
is
of that, though,
really
is
crazy to
because of
me.
all the people that really aren't, that have jumped on board the
Right.
bandwagon.
And
I think
so,
it's become a trend.
and you also have not only just the unfairness in the sports, but you know, it's an issue where like there's so many loopholes to it too. So like say a man identifies as a woman and he fully transitions and does all the things over the course of time that it takes to
Right, because that's also
transition.
not something you can do in 5 minutes.
No, or at lunch at school or whatever. Like people that
Well, the
think that
whole thing
kids are
now,
having
the whole thing now too is you can, you know, this non-binary or this trifecta thing where today I'm male, tomorrow I'm female, and you know, so they don't have to
Yep.
transition at all
Right.
because they identify differently each
everything
day how
and-
they feel. Like that is bananas. That is freaking bananas.
It is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Because we
you.
really need another thing to put on everybody's plate every day, right? Like, oh well, let's add that to the agenda. How do we feel today?
How do you deal with
Like-
their whole thing about the pronouns? How do you deal with the pronouns? Does he have to come in every day and put his pronouns on his, you know how you used to in the old days? I mean, people don't really do it anymore, but they used to have the little sign on their desk with, you know, Mr. Tom Botchery, you know, on his
Tomfoolery. Mr. Tomfoolery.
on the desk, you know. So when you walked in, he had his nameplate
Right.
on his desk
Right.
or on his door or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And what do they do now? Pronouns?
Yeah, that's weird.
Like no
Yeah.
name, just put my pronouns on it.
Well, and what I'd never
And does he have a
understood, like,
triple one that just turns and he
Yeah.
can just
like
change?
this is how I feel today. No, but what I don't like, that's another thing
Or
I've
is it
never
an A-ball?
understood. I don't. Well, I don't call anybody a her, like, or a she. Like, I find out your name
And I call you
and
your
I
name.
call you your name.
Hey, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Hey, her.
Yeah.
Like it's one, it's all about grammar in my book. I'm a writer, so it's
that
grammar to me.
too. Like
And
that grades on my.
Grammatically, I would never say, hey, her.
Yes.
Hey, her.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey them.
now
Hey them. Hey them.
now I do understand in the context of a sentence, you say, you know, Kimberly was grooming today, and when she was done, she put all her stuff away and got in the car and drove her car over to the house. But that is called grammar.
Right.
That's called grammar. I mean,
it's okay. Like, I don't see that it's such a devastating point in someone's life if someone says her when that person wants to be called and recognize him. Like, you're asking us to change our
right.
rationale
Well, and like
and
if
our.
I told you that Sally was coming over for dinner. Sally's coming for dinner. They are leaving at 6. They will be here about 6:15.
Yeah,
what would you ask me?
that's who's coming with her.
Right.
Or like, is she coming alone? Or
Grammatically,
like,
isn't that mean more than one?
yeah,
I mean,
yes.
if you look in the dictionary, the definition of they is more than one.
Yeah. So Sally and who?
Yeah, Sally and who else is coming? No one. Just
Sally.
just
her committee.
her committee in her head. So anyway, after Trump did the executive order, the next step for any of these executive orders is for them to put a bill to Congress to sign the bill so that it can't be undone.
Mhm.
And so they put a bill to Congress to not allow males to be in women's spaces. And they had all the Republicans. They needed 7 Democrats to cross over in order for it to come forward or for it to go forward.
Mhm.
And they couldn't get 7. They couldn't get 7 women, 7 men who have daughters. They couldn't get 7 Democrats to commit because they're so anti-Trump and, in my opinion, anti-American that they just won't do anything that's good for the country regardless.
But
And
that's completely going against women's rights. Like
1,000%. What
women,
part of that?
real natural born identifying cisgender women.
If you want us to use that
Okay,
term,
like
that's
that
the
would
only
be
time
us.
I will.
Yeah, I'm a cisgender. That 100%. So if you want to protect our rights as women, we come first.
Mhm.
The trannies come second. I mean, if you want to like do it the right way, like they can't be equal to us and be afforded the same protection. Like women's protection means protection in all areas of the aspect of a woman's existence.
And what I don't understand about this is when it comes to this whole topic in itself, which really wasn't what we were totally planning on talking about today, but it is important. But we have fought really hard as women, and the feminist movement that there once was, the separatist movement, which was started by men. A lot of people don't know that, but it was technically started by men who wanted their wives to go to work and help out. Now the women who got into the suffragettes were pushed there by their husbands. There was many that were pushed into that didn't even want to be a part of it, and their husbands kind of pushed them into it. But once they go, it's like, hey, Kimberly, you want to go to this party with me? And you're like, no, I don't want to go. Come on, man. I don't want to go by myself. Please come on, come with me. But then you go and you're like, whoa, that was a lot of fun. Let's do that again. That's kind of what happened with the suffragettes, is a lot of them didn't want to participate, but once they started, they were like, all right, this makes me feel really good and powerful and strong. And now I want to be involved.
Yes,
so that's how the movement got much bigger.
Yes.
And then when it came to the feminist movement, that was because technically women still couldn't do certain things. So they really fought for more women's rights. And then when it got to Title IX, fighting for Title IX in sports, that they could have their own sports. And we got that all through. And now it's like someone is back there with a feminist voodoo doll, and they're trying to, cut off all the parts that make it what was intended to protect women. And, not every woman can just run around with a gun and shoot people that are coming into their spaces. But do you feel unsafe enough?
Well, when did sports become more important than an actual like natural born right to safety?
Right.
I mean, that shouldn't even be like technically. I mean, it is, but it shouldn't technically have to be a law that somebody says, "Hey, they need to be safe." Like that's just kind of an innate.
Right. I mean, I think
thing.
the
Like we
sports
need
part
to
of
be
it
safe.
is
Everybody
a very
needs to be safe.
right.
And that looks different in different arenas. So having a man have the ability to walk into a bathroom while I'm sitting on a toilet, like that would just weird me out. And I would be like, why? Like,
Well,
it would be
there's,
so
and there's
awkward.
circumstances where, like, I have been to places where there's a big old long line of men. At one particular time, there was like 2 or 3 women's bathrooms, at this event place, but there was only one men's room.
Okay.
And there was a line of men there, and there was only a couple women.
Mhm.
And I had came out, and there was now no women, but there was still men. And I said, "Hey, go ahead and go use the ladies' room, and I'll just guard the door."
Mhm.
And when another woman came up, I said, "There's a guy in
Mhm.
there right now."
Mhm.
And she's like, "What's he doing in there?" I said, "I told him go use it because he's been waiting,
Mhm.
and he's waiting a really long time." And I could tell he was uncomfortable. Like
Mhm.
something was going
Right.
on. He needed to go.
Right.
So I was like trying to be nice, and there just wasn't whoever had gone in there. They were like single stalls.
Mhm.
So whoever had gone in there, I guess they pitched a tent and they were staying for a while, but he really needed to go. And I wouldn't get mad if I walked up and saw a man, especially if it's a locked door. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't care if a
Yeah.
man went into
Into
that
a
bathroom.
woman's right, but I'm talking. Well,
But
yeah,
I'm
but
talking about the
like,
ones that are open for
yeah,
the public. There's
like at
3 stalls
Disneyland,
in there.
like
You and I are
yeah,
going in together, and there's a dude in there.
yeah,
I have a problem with that.
I do
I have a
too.
problem with that at the gym. If I go
Yeah.
into the locker room and I go to the bathroom, so yes, the
And
sports is just a
women
small segment
and
of this.
and women aren't transitioning and trying to go into men's restrooms as often either. Not that I'm aware of, or
Well, I'm
that
sure
gets
it's happening.
reported,
I'm
or
sure it's happening, but the likelihood of men feeling intimidated by a girl that's identifying as a man or scared of him, her, is probably pretty slim. If
I wonder
it,
how they would feel though.
a
Like if women just
6'5"
started
man,
infiltrating the men's bathrooms everywhere, like how would men react to that?
yeah. Well, I don't
I mean, I
know
just go
because I don't.
saunter on in there and they're all at the urinals and I'm like, dude, where's that stall at, man? There it is. Gotta go. They'd probably be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an awkward and
So it
uncomfortable
would be
place.
an awkward, right.
Because most men stand at a wall of urinals and they all just whip it out and are going next to each other. And like they have this unspoken rule that you don't go to the stall next to another guy if there's an open stall.
Right.
Like you
right.
go,
you go,
you leave a
yes. You leave
space between you
right.
unless it's full. Then as I don't remember who I was listening to, but he's like, even in that circumstance, I go wash my hands for a minute until there's like at least 2 open ones, because I still don't want to be standing
right.
And that same
all
person,
shoulder to shoulder.
I can't remember who it was, but he's a celebrity and he was talking about it, and he's like, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the place to be like, hey, so I wrote this script. I think you would love it. He's like, please don't approach me when I'm standing with my dick in my hands taking a leak. Please do not ask me about a script that you wrote. Like, that is not the appropriate moment. So I can imagine that
that would be me. Like, if you're trying to be a man, I'd walk up and be like, hey, so how about them bears?
That's why we don't know anything about what it's like
would
to
you
be
pick the man or the bear? Would you? Which one would you pick?
He's like, right now, the bear. Would I pick the woman or the bear? The woman that's standing next to me asking me weird ass questions.
I'm going with the bear because this bitch is crazy.
Can you put this picture in your head for a second? There is a bathroom with 6 urinals on the wall. And there's also stalls, because they usually have the stalls.
Yeah.
They shit in the stalls, they piss in the urinals. And you walk in, you're a female, you're you or me, and you walk in and you're like, hey, I gotta go. And you go in, you shut the door. They're like, they probably don't know what to do or what to say. And I think they would probably like lose their abilities for a second. Like, I can't pee right now. But then a couple seconds later, and there's, 2 or 3 guys in there, let's just say, scenario wise. and there's a couple stalls empty between them. But the sinks are usually right next to the last urinal. And most
Mm.
guys don't go to that urinal because the sink's right next to it.
Mhm.
They go like one space away. So imagine the scenario when you walk out of the stall now and you walk over to the sink and you're washing your hands and you're like, so what about them bears? You know, like, what did you think of the football game? And they're like, is this really happening right now?
Dude, I would totally do that if it wouldn't like violate privacy.
Well, right
things,
now
but
it probably wouldn't. Right now you could probably totally get away
that
with
would
doing
be
it.
like really funny.
You would almost want a camera on you that only can
Yes.
go up here,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah,
not like
just
gonna
get their faces.
not
Yeah,
gonna
like
get their junk or nothing.
yeah, for
But
sure.
just to see what their reaction is,
Yeah.
it would almost be an interesting video to see what men's reaction
Yeah.
is to women walking into their spaces versus the other way around. And I
Mhm.
mean, I could easily wear a flannel shirt, a pair of boots, a pair of jeans, and a t-shirt and a baseball cap backwards and be like, but I identify as a dude.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
what's wrong with me
For
walking in
sure.
here? And I would be curious as to see how their response would be. I mean, obviously, for it to be a study, we would have to do it at multiple places and multiple times to find out how they really
We
would respond.
like we would.
But the thing is when you're discussing it in the manner that we're talking about it, and when it comes to the sports, I've said it a couple times, the sports part of it is very small, minute section.
Mhm.
You know, it's not like there's, you know, at every school there's 45 guys trying to be on the girls' team.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
Because that is something that has been discussed. It's a very small number.
Mhm.
But they have taken thousands of positions from women. But it's not about the number, it's about it happening at all. Period. It's the safety aspect, the safety in the restrooms, I mean, what happened to indecent exposure?
Mhm.
Like, what happened to that? There is
Mhm.
no like, have we just
Yeah.
removed that law everywhere? Look at the pride
Pride parade.
parades. Like, those are just absolute debauchery.
And you know what? They didn't used to be, and that's what's so
When they started it, though, they wore
crappy is-
suits.
yes, and it was they were so much fun because I used to go to them every year in West Hollywood, and they were a blast. I also used to frequent uh like camper type shows where they were cross-dressing, you know, so they were gay men dressing up as Diana Ross and
Oh,
Barbara
yeah,
Streisand,
like drag
and they were
shows.
doing
I
like,
love drag shows.
dude,
I've
for
always had
real,
fun
they
at
were
the drag
so
shows.
fun.
Mhm.
And now I look at what's going on now, and I'm like, dude, this is not what it used to be either. Like it's
No. And
and
the people in that community, though, are saying the same thing.
I know.
And
know.
that's what's sad. They're like, they weren't really accepted in the community, and then they took over the community. And they weren't accepted as women. Now
Mhm.
they're taking over women.
Mhm.
And I think there's the huge problem, and this is why I feel like it's such a big problem, is because it's not about true transgenders.
Mhm.
It's not about true LGBTQ people. It's about infiltrators that are
Mhm.
using it as a smokescreen to cover their deviant behavior with children,
Mhm.
with a majority of them, you know, doing
Animals.
animals and
Like
just
that.
just extreme sexual debauchery, and they're using this as a smokescreen to
Mhm.
get away with their fetishes, you know,
Mhm.
because there's quite a few. Like, it's come out, a lot of information has come out about that swimmer, and I will not say the name, but we all know who the swimmer is that took the title away from Riley Gaines. I refuse to say the name because I don't think his name should be said in either male or female, because I don't think he should get any I
don't even know the name. So.
I don't think he should get any
recognition.
Yeah, any airtime. That's what I was meaning. He shouldn't get any airtime. It should just be like, let's forget his name. And it's just he. In that circumstances, it's just he. But he had a lot of stuff on his social media that was very, very fetish-like. And he was dating women, totally dating women prior to that, which seems to me very heterosexual to begin with. So, like, did they find a little avenue to hop into to play their little debauchery games? Like the 50 some odd year old man that self-identifies as an 8-year-old girl and can swim, and they have chased him down to his car in the parking lot. Now, my answer to that is, how are you driving? You're 8. Like, you can't have a driver's license. How do you have a car? How did you buy a car? Do you have a house? How do you have a house? You're 8. Like, who has custody of you?
Who do we turn you in for, or who do we turn in for child labor laws? Because if you're working, that's
Right,
against the law because you're 8.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
that's
if we're gonna do
nuts.
that, he needs to be accountable all the way as 8. That means you can't drive, you can't have a job, you can't
Exactly.
have a house. You have to live with parental supervision, and I'll gladly be your parent because I'm gonna lock that kid in the basement or something. I don't know what I would do with that. Please don't take that seriously. I do not want to identify as his parent.
Oh, funny.
But I mean, you have to come to a point where we have to say enough is enough. And that was the whole point of this bill, is to make it a law. And like you said before, when did it get to a time where we had to say XY chromosomes and, you know, this is this and this is this. There is no crossover. You know, you're either male or female. And when I hear what about the ones that are hermaphrodites? They're born with both. Well, those ones that are born with both, one is an appendage. They only have the sex organs, internal organs of one or the other. They can either reproduce as a male or female, and that's usually done when they're born, and they have ovaries, a uterus, cervix, all that. They claim that is now a female, and you have the option to remove the appendage. If they have testicles, they have a prostate, they have the male stuff, they are considered a male. And they can, you know, and I don't know the whole schematics of that, how they deal with that, but it's still one or the other with a little bit of a, you know, extra wart, you know, like the woman who gets the extra nipple. She still only has 2 boobs.
Exactly.
She just got an extra nipple or an extra little, you know, thing there. But we have to at some point draw a line that says this is what the standards are, and it's based on biology. And we were told during COVID, trust the science. Well, what happened to trusting the science? Because the science says there are male and there is female. And I've heard it before. I'm sure you've heard it before. 100 years from now, you dig up the bones of two individuals, and they will be able to identify this was a male and this was a female. They might be like, why is this male in here with a dress on?
Well, I'd also like to know, when, you know, you decide that you're not the biological sex that you were born, there's only one other option.
There's not 34.
Like, that's the other piece. Like, no one's putting that together. Like, no, there's not 18,000 different genders. There's 2. And when you are one and you don't want to be that one, you choose the only other choice. You're
Yeah.
not getting surgery to become anything other than the sex that you are.
Yeah.
Like that should.
Well, and I mean, if you identify as a cat, there is still only a male cat or a female cat.
True. That's true. But at that point,
There's
like
male-
that's even like that is mental illness for real,
Yeah.
because that's not even our species.
Yeah, like I
Like
mean,
you're literally
I'm a chicken.
That's and I saw my first one the other day at Dollar General here in our small little
A chicken?
No, a
I'm
furry.
sorry. A furry? Oh my gosh.
I was blown away. I was like, it was Sunday morning, so I know they weren't on their way to church, or maybe they were. Who knows?
Maybe it was the furry convention at
but
the local Baptist
There
church.
could have been. Who knows? But I was blown away. I've never seen any but full blown like cat head, tail, striped leggings, things on the
Maybe they were
hands.
going to an event.
No. No, they were shopping.
Those parts
It was wild.
I just really don't get it. I don't understand, and I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why it's gotten to the point that it's gotten, and it's because we took that we have to be that woke culture of we have to be kind and we have to be accepting and we have to be understanding of everyone and what their little quirks are and their things are. So we just have to like play games with it. You know, like you shouldn't have to dive into somebody else's delusion in order for them to feel better. Like that to me is increasing their mental health problems. If you take that person aside and you're like, look, you're really not a cat, so I'm not going to treat you like a cat. You're not a cat. You're a human and you're a person and you need to go seek some counseling. But because we let this go so long in so many different directions, and of course Charlie Kirk has said it a few times where he's like, well, what if I identify as black? I identify as a black man.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, but you can't do that. What if
Why
I
not?
identify as a 25-year-old whatever? Well, you can't change your age. Well, you can't change your sex.
Right.
You can't change who you are.
Right.
You can't change your race. You can't, and you can have whatever surgeries you want. You can go to a salon. In fact, there's that one lady who has literally gone under surgery and had pigmentation done in surgical ways to bring out the melanin in her skin, and she's white. And she's done all this. She lives in Europe or something. But it's like, but you're still who you are.
Right.
I don't care what mask you put on. I don't care what lipstick you put on. As how many, it's been oversaid how many times. You put a lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
Like that's
and I'm not saying everybody's fat. This was not a fat reference.
It has nothing to do. Don't read into it. It's a literal saying. No, there's nothing to read into that, folks. Okay.
Yeah.
Means nothing except for if you step in a pile of shit,
it's still shit.
Even if it was like looking good, it's still shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yeah. Like,
you know that white stuff on top of shit? It's still shit.
Yeah. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it, but no, it's now I'm thinking about stepping in poo.
It happens. Okay, so we're gonna play this video real quick. And this is how Megyn Kelly responded to this.
The order is pertaining to this is whether or not the objective ought to be to try and pass executive orders or even to pass a new federal statute that is going to outlaw certain things, as opposed to trying to make certain that there is a kind of neutrality, that universities and the NCAA aren't trying to push particular values on parents and families and communities and even players, and incentivize things in the way that Joe Biden had before. And now Donald Trump is essentially trying to reverse that. The reason why you need some sort of federal legislation, if you're a conservative who's concerned about these issues, is because you know that just doing this with respect to executive orders, it's going to be tit for tat. As soon as Donald Trump is out of office, someone else is going to do this. Yeah. So the question becomes perhaps going for pluralism, perhaps trying to make some of these things less ideological is a better path forward on a range of issues.
However, I'm going to interrupt there for a second. The problem is we can't do anything to placate it. You know, it has to be point blank, black or white. We can't do like a play with words in any way, shape, or form. It has to be black and white, this and that, not like doing. And the reason why we're in the place we're in is by placating
all the gray
areas and the placating, just a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit. And it just went from here. And now it's like so out of control. You can't, it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. You know, if you don't stop it, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and it's just taking everything with it. That's an avalanche, you know, and it started out as a little tiny bit of snow rolling down the mountain, and it turned into an avalanche, and it took everything out on its way down. You know, that's where we're now at the bottom of the hill, watching the avalanche and trying to run away from it when all you have is your bare feet. And avalanches, if anybody knows, the reason people have gotten caught in avalanches and died in them is because they cannot outrun it. You cannot physically outrun an avalanche. Well, that's where we're at now with this ideological wokeism. It is an avalanche that we can no longer outrun because we didn't stop it when it started.
Issues, even a lot of the diversity.
It's very hard because I take your point, state by state experiment and all that, but I actually do think it's a civil rights issue for girls and for women, and they're already entitled to this protection under the existing law. It just must be enforced. But secondly, we've of course been through 4 years of Joe Biden where he implemented these so-called reforms into Title IX and policy and his, dear friend pressure on universities, and so Trump has to try to undo it on a national level, both through executive order and Title IX new guidance, and ideally through a statute which would stop this pendulum from swinging back and forth, and we can have predictability. Here is who we need to keep our eyes on, okay? Because the senators who are from blue states like New York and California are not going to be punished for their absurd vote. And keep in mind, they didn't even have the balls to allow a vote. That's what they were being asked on. Will you vote for cloture, which is where you need 60 votes in the Senate to say yes. That's it. They just needed to allow this to proceed to the Senate floor for a real vote and then let majority rule as it always should. They wouldn't. So they affirmatively stopped it because they knew that the Republicans did have the 53 votes. All 53 Republicans were ready to vote yes on this. And they couldn't get the chance to because they needed 7 Dems to cross over. So here are the true villains, the ones who are in swing states who must be targeted. I'm begging Elon to use some of his money, and he's 100% with me on this issue, 100% with me. I beg you to use some of your money to help defeat the following people. Arizona, both of them have to go. Ruben Gallego, it should have been Carrie Lake anyway. Well, she would have voted the right way. Mark Kelly, who I liked and who I still have a personal affinity for. I'm sorry, you need to go. If I could wave my magic wand, you're fired, sir, because you voted the wrong way. Georgia, John Ossoff, who's got a daughter, but doesn't seem to give two shits about what happens to her on the sports field. And Raphael Warnock, who I think is going soon anyway. Michigan, Gary Peters. Alyssa Slotkin, you have to go too. You didn't show up. You didn't think it was important enough, even though you're one of the women in the Senate, to show up and support young girls trying to work their way up the power chain behind you. Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto, you too. Jackie Rosen, gone, if I have anything to say about it. Pennsylvania, fuck you, John Fetterman. You act like you're a man of the people. You're going to look out for the weak. You get it. You don't get shit. You really don't. That part of your brain still appears to be injured because you're going to let all these little girls go out there and get a traumatic brain injury. You, of all people who understand what a brain injury can do, screw you and your working class appeal. You don't get it at all. And then there's Wisconsin's Tammy Baldwin, who exposed herself as a complete idiot in those confirmation hearings that I went down to. She was one of the dopiest people we saw up there. I'm not surprised she landed in the wrong place. But those,
I have to say that absolutely, I feel about the exact same way as she does, because how dare you not step up? You know, John, or what's his name? Fetterman. Is it John?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I had that in my head. Like, that's not right. But I mean, like, he knows what it's like to have a head injury.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when there are women and young girls who are physically being harmed by these males in their sport because they're, you know, the power behind their hit, like that one girl, she was playing volleyball. Like, you don't think about volleyball being a volatile sport, but there are females that hurt other females playing volleyball because they become very volatile. They become very tough. They become very, I mean, I wouldn't go play volleyball up against a professional volleyball player.
No way.
No, I'd probably end up with a concussion and in the hospital. She could injure me.
For sure.
But that's the same level of not saying that these, you know, and
so these tough girl sports players, it would be the same as them being you up against a biological male.
Right, exactly. And like The View said, oh, so they don't know how to play their sport and they're so little flowers and we have to protect them. Yeah, actually we do. And it's not because they're not tough. It's not because they're not tough. It's not because they're not capable. It's not because they're not the top of their class. The boxer in the Olympics, like, she was top notch, top ranking, and she quit in 40 seconds and was on the ground like, I can't do that. I've never had that powerful of a hit. Why? Because you don't fight men. That's why. You know, and we don't allow men to go into a ring. So now forget the indecent exposure. And now I guess we just shouldn't even bother with domestic violence either, because like, what's the point? I mean, if men can just beat the shit out of women and all he has to say is, well, we were just practicing because we both box and I'm actually her wife. You know, I identify as her wife and she wants to go do boxing. So we were just boxing. I didn't hit her. You know, we were just sparring. Like, is it going to get to that point? Because I see the lies that people are saying are taking over things. That to me leaves this door open for and as a former police officer, I've been to calls where as soon as you get there, she's defending him. She doesn't want you to take him to jail. So if he says, well, I'm actually transgender and I'm a female and we were actually sparring, we were boxing, we weren't actually fighting. I didn't, you know, I hit her a little too hard. The neighbors heard us boxing and they called. We didn't call. And also, what is she going to say? Oh, that's so true. We were just sparring. We were just boxing. He didn't mean to like take out 4 of my teeth. You know, I mean, like, are we going to get to that point where the lies just are compounded onto another, and we don't have, we can't see what's in front of our faces? Like, I can see what's happening. I can do deductive reasoning. When a guy walks by, I don't care if he's wearing a dress, 99.9% of the time, I can visually know that is a male. And that was the other thing that was brought up on The View is, well, now we're going to have to lift their skirts and check for gender. You know what? There's such a thing as called birth certificates. Now, I do understand some people have gotten away with getting birth certificates changed, but 99.9% of the time, you can look at a woman and know whether she was female or male. And that goes with young kids as well. And this problem is not so much in elementary and kindergarten as it is in high school, junior high school, into college, and so on. Because most kids that are in elementary school, they're playing co-ed sports. They're not really doing a whole lot of total separation at that point. And I think I've said this before, and I don't know what anybody's opinion is, but it's not a factual thing. But if there was a thing as non-binary, it's at like kindergarten, preschool, first, second grade, because they don't really understand the difference between boys and girls, other than mommy said that I'm a girl and my brother's a boy. Like they play together, they chase each other, they do all the same things, and they don't do the you're a boy and girl thing until they start hitting puberty, and then they're like, whoa, Dad, I don't understand what's happening. Like I've always liked she's just one of the boys. We just play together. And now I'm like looking at her in a totally different way. And I'm looking at her like, she's kind of cute. It's because you went into puberty. You went out of that non-binary stage.
Right.
So I think in a sense, there kind of is a non-binary stage before they actually fully come into being a male or female, being a woman or man, because that's what puberty is for. Puberty is to separate you now from childhood and bringing you into adulthood, the flowering, as they say. So we have to come to some kind of conclusion within our government that protects women in every aspect, regardless of people's feelings. As Ben Shapiro will say, facts don't care about your feelings.
Well, you have natural born citizens. You should have natural born protection.
Yeah.
For being a woman and for being a man too. Like it should be whatever is specific to protect men and their rights, then that needs to be like, if there's going to be any division or detail oriented type things, it should be like, these are put in place to protect men. These are put in place to protect women. They're universal. They're unchangeable. They're immutable. That's it. Like, this is, men will not, I don't care. Like, because when you die, like, the coroner is gonna know like what you were, regardless. And
when they dig up your bones,
and your
they
DNA
know.
and everything is gonna say what you are, and no one's gonna care what you imagined. They're gonna be like, and so
no, they'll look at those bones like, why did those bones have a dress on them? Because it's a man. They wouldn't have any clue.
Right. And I just the whole thing is just has become a real shit show. It really has.
It really
and
has.
It's another divisive tool too. Like, there's so many divisive tools, and BLM was another divisive tool to get people to stir that racism pot back up, and like, I'm not denying that there isn't racist, because there most definitely is racist.
Oh, absolutely.
People, racist people. The people group of racists, or Nazis or whatever. Like those are non-existent anymore. And so anything that has to do with separating people out from others, I feel is nefarious to begin with, because like you were literally being crucified if you went against BLM and said ALM. Like, you're not allowed to say all lives matter. Like, that's not good enough. What do you mean it's not good enough? So you want to be the pick me? Like, this is your year to be the pick me. Like, just stop already. Like, just stop. It's insanity. And if you don't support any of those things, then you're automatically on the other side, and which is so wrong too. But Trump ordered the BLM monument to be torn down and
tearing up Black Lives Matter Plaza, permanently removing the.
That's a positive step.
I think that's a positive step. One, okay.
Well, plus the whole movement was a big slush fund anyway.
I've never bought into the Black Lives Matter in the first place because of all lives matter, period. There's nobody that's racism in itself, because nobody's life is above anyone else's.
Exactly.
And all lives matter. And it was developed to, stand for Black people. I get that. But if you're going to do that, then you need to stand for the gangbangers that are shooting each other, the Black women who are aborting their babies at a rate way higher than any other race out there. So if Black Lives Matter, where are you when these other things happen? You're not standing at abortion clinics when a Black woman is going inside saying, stop, your baby's life matters, because it's a baby, it's a Black life. They're not protesting out and standing on corners in gang-ridden areas telling them to stop shooting each other. That's not happening. And then, of course, it became, like very quickly became a slush fund, became a money grab. And that's, to me, is pretty disgusting in itself. So,
and Black people should be angry about that they
should
were
be
once again conned into some movement that wasn't for the benefit of all. It was
especially
for the benefit
people
of
that
some.
Really donated to it for the cause they thought it was for.
Because that money that they received should have gone back to the community that they're claiming to stand for and serve. They didn't serve
it went
anybody.
To buy them some mansions. And,
Yes.
Isn't one of them now in jail?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, it didn't go towards helping anyone in the Black community except for the founder, and who is now in jail. And I think all the money's been confiscated that was left or whatever. I don't know the whole, because I haven't done a whole deep dive into that. But Candace Owens said it right off the bat, the very beginning. This is bullshit. And it's bullshit.
Well, and they were a huge catalyst for violence in communities all across the nation.
They were destroying their own communities.
That in itself should,
That's the part I've never understood.
You're
mad because a Black guy was shot by a cop, so you destroy your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You burn your own house down. That's like getting mad at your husband for not getting the groceries that you asked him to get, and you light the house on fire.
Right.
That's just insanity.
Yes.
I'm going to blow up my car because I'm pissed at you. Like, what the hell is, that just makes no logical sense whatsoever.
None.
And when you have somebody like George Floyd, and what they never listened to is there was tons and tons of white people saying that what the cop did was over and above. It was not acceptable. Nobody thought it was acceptable. But what I also didn't find acceptable is them posting posters out saying, we don't know what he could have been, in images of him wearing a white coat as a doctor, as an astronaut. No, we knew what he was. He was a gangbanger, drug addict, piece of shit. And him not being killed by that cop during a altercation would not have turned him into a doctor or a NASA engineer or an astronaut. I'm sorry. He was still going to be the piece of shit he was before.
Yes.
And the autopsy finally revealed that he died from an actual drug overdose, not from asphyxiation. So there was false information there to begin with. But none of us are saying that police brutality is acceptable. If they're caught doing that, we stand against that. And I don't know anyone out there that's like, yeah, totally. I know when I was a police officer, we used to have briefings every day. And they tried to make it out like all cops, no matter what the race of the cops are, cops just period, their goal and their job is to gun down Black people. And we didn't have briefings going, well, yesterday I got 7.
Right.
Today my goal is 10. I mean, and if you pull up the stats.
Well, I did 27. Woo! High five, buddy.
Yeah, right.
Man, goals, dude. I want to be like you someday, bro.
That's what happens when you're Black. You get more of them. I mean, that's the thing is.
That's not even.
Nobody their goal is to go home.
Right.
Their goal is to go home at the end of their shift and make it home to their families.
Yep.
And I have 2 law enforcement sons. Their goal is to get home to one of them to their daughter and son, the other one to the 3 daughters and daughter and son and wife, and the other one to his 3 daughters and wife. That is their goal. Their goal is to make it home at the end of their shift, not how many Black people they can shoot. And of course, I don't understand it because there's never any, no one's ever upset if it's a Black cop that shoots a white person or a Black, white, Asian, Hispanic cop that shoots a Hispanic. They don't care. It's only about this one side of it. And you try to pretend that the victim was just beautiful and magnificent and amazing human being. Like, he was estranged from his family because of his drug addiction and because of his gang affiliations. But now mama's wearing a shirt. I mean, like, seriously?
With angel wings and a halo.
Yeah, Like,
that was just so, and even all that too was just so gross. Like, to do that to anybody, like,
I agreed.
To use that as your political fodder for what? Like, it was just gross. The whole situation
and the
was
whole
gross
thing
all the
was
way
really
around.
all about grifting.
It was, absolutely.
And we're going to be doing a show here coming up where we're putting it together for grifting, and about grifting on the internet, and people that make fake social media things. I'm sick. I have cancer, so send me money. YouTube channels that are grifting off of their viewers. So we're going to be doing a show on that, but BLM was a definite absolute grift. And I 100% agree with them putting a little bit more of a stronghold on things like GoFundMe's and stuff like that. You should, in my opinion, not be able to do that unless you have some kind of proof, some kind of something that says this is a legit thing.
They've been vetted and
yeah. I mean, like, there was many people that just started GoFundMe's when there was fires and the hurricanes and the fires in Maui, and they did it as if they were going to collect that money for that specific thing, and they had no affiliation with it in any way, shape, or form. Didn't even know anybody there. They were just like, people are giving money, so I'm going to take some. You know, that's a crime. People don't understand. That's an actual crime.
Theft by deception is what it is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what BLM in general was. So speaking of that, I'm going to actually make this full screen for a second. Because it's just easier that way. But this is what we just hold on one second. Sorry. It was what you were talking about that they come on. Okay, I guess we'll just do it the way we have it. We won't be on there.
BLM street mural that was painted outside on the street just north of the White House. Griff Jenkins is on the plaza now, which is north of H Street, just north of Lafayette Square, right in front of the White House. It's about 300, 400 yards away, just to give everybody the lay of the land. What are you seeing out there right now, Griff?
Yeah, John, good afternoon, and that's a good point. We are just steps from the White House. Actually, I'll just spin for just a second, Les. You can see, remember the St. John's Church, the center of the riots and protests of the BLM in the summer of 2020? Obviously, this here is where they erected this Black Lives Matter plaza and painted on the street. But as you mentioned, it's not just being painted over, John. It's being torn up. Let me show you. We've just watched hours of a jackhammer tearing up some bollards that lined the street. They had lights on them. This is where the word matter was. The next block, lives, and the next block, black. So these crews are out here actually tearing up the bollards to begin tearing the entire street up. It says it's going to take them days to do this because of the amount of work, but they're ultimately going to return this entire 16th Street back to just a paved road. No, nothing painted in here. No Black Lives Matter, just a two-way either way, the way it was before the mural. It comes as we're seeing D.C. also clearing out those homeless encampments, and of course the effort to bring the federal workers back to work as well, and cracking down on crime, all a part of what President Trump calls making D.C. great again. John, we'll send it back to you.
All right.
Apparently we were muted there for a second. But you know, having the Donald Trump is making a better for America in itself.
Right.
Make America great again. America first. Americans' lives matter. Not illegal immigrants staying in New York City hotels. Those are being shut down. When they didn't like the food they were preparing, they're like, oh, you don't like the food? Here's more. Here's a card with money on it so you can go buy your own food. And they were cooking on the street. They were cooking in the rooms with their hot plates or whatever. And the matter of disrespect was beyond any comprehension. And for him to be going through and removing it, and I want to point out the gentlemen that are doing the work there in that video in the background are African American men, and they're not throwing fits. They're not sitting down going, I'm not going to tear up this road. They're like, I'm getting paid to do this work. Fair wages, getting paid decent wages to do a job. And I think the more we actually saw it, when I saw a Black Lives Matter event, the majority of it was liberal white women.
Yeah.
Not black people.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some,
Yeah.
But the majority were these
Yes.
virtue signaling liberal white women.
Is that not cultural appropriation?
But I stand for you, so I'm better than you.
Like,
and who is it that why is that not racist that I'm telling you that I need to speak for you?
yeah.
Because you're too stupid to speak for yourself. You're too incapable of standing up for your own rights. No, I think that's considered racism. Like, don't speak for me. As a woman, I don't need anyone to speak for me but me.
Especially a man.
Especially a man. And
Like,
I don't need,
but
I don't need.
There was a lot of liberal men that were supporting that movement.
Well, that's
too,
true.
and
But I
so-
think a majority of those were woke little, I don't know what you would call them. They definitely fall under cis.
soy boys.
Sissy,
They're soy boys.
sissy.
They're soy boys.
Yeah, they're the little
They're
wives
little
that
skinny little
tell
soy
them
boys.
what they're supposed to think and do. When I see a grown ass man wearing a hat that says a pussy hat on his head, or a shirt that, or a bra on saying I support women, I look right at him and go, yeah, you're not a man. I don't know what you are. I don't even see that as a soy boy. I see that as a sissy boy. But we have,
or somebody who's really hard up, like they are willing to fucking do anything.
I will do whatever you tell me.
Please, I haven't got laid in 27 years. Just I will wear a pussy hat.
I will do whatever you
just
say.
touch it. Just touch it.
Please. I'm begging you. I'm begging you.
I mean, that's what I see when I see these men that are. I watch that little girl. She's so cute, and I can never remember her name. What is it? Liberty something or other. She's
yeah.
Oh, she's a little young. She's probably late 20s. She goes to all the little liberal events.
I love her.
And
I love her.
She is just precious, and she just is like, what? I'm a woman at a women's event. Why aren't you talking to me?
Like what's wrong with
and
you?
And all these men are like
coming at her.
You're a Trumpster. And I'm like, dude, you're a fucking bitch. Like, go home. You're not a woman. Go home.
Yeah.
It's a women's event. Like, please, really.
Yeah. Can the women just stand up for
women? And then
women?
they're all, don't talk to her. Come here. Don't talk to her.
Yeah, don't talk to her because she's
like,
bad.
Oh my
Can the
God.
women just stand for women? And can Black people just stand for Black people if it's a Black issue?
Yeah.
And stop as white liberal virtue signaling women standing up there telling other people what they need to think and telling them how they need to feel about it. I know how I feel about the things I feel, and there are things that I feel that are not necessarily what other feminists or other women would think. Like, I don't really truly believe in women in combat.
I don't either.
I don't. And it's not as being a feminist. It's because I look at it kind of like the transgender issue. The number of tough women who can perform on the same level equal to a man is such a small number that letting them be in full combat positions or special forces and stuff like that is putting the majority of men in danger.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those tough women. Like, I really, really was. When I was in the Army, I was that tough girl. I am so broken now because of how hard I had to push myself and how hard I had to work to do everything at the level of the men that I was working with and in my helicopter with. In order for me to be able to do the same things as them, I had to be tougher. I had to be stronger. I had to work out more. I had to not eat as much. I had to not sleep as much because I had to train when others could be sleeping. I had to do more and put my body through so much more to be on the same level, and I was never special forces or anything like that, like, that wasn't a thing, that wasn't an option, but knowing me, I am very competitive. So, if it were an option, I probably would have tried to go. And I would have pushed myself so hard to pass and to get through it. Some of the training stuff that I did go through, I put myself in harm's way trying to be on their same level. And the issue that I have with it is that's not what the standard is, though. The standard is they have a different standard for women. So you don't have to perform on the same level. I never had to. I wasn't required to perform on their level. I had a different level. But I wanted to be respected and I wanted to be trusted and I wanted to be one of them. So I pushed myself up to their level. They never came down to mine. And I was harassed. I was never sexually assaulted, but attempted until I put them in their place. There's a whole thing, a whole show we could do one day about how to defend yourself in a sexual harassment situation. But I think the thing is that the majority of women that want to be in that, they want the levels down here. They want to be allowed to not perform at the same height as the men. And then you're putting those men at risk when you get into a danger situation where they are going to be eyes on the mission and her. Eyes on the mission and her. Eyes on the mission and her. Oh, she's down. Now we're going to take care of her. Forget the mission for a minute. Because now we need to protect, because their innate nature is protect us. Whether you're in a uniform or not, that is their innate nature, is to protect the women. So if their job is to do this mission and there's a woman in part of their group, it is a focus on the mission, her. Focus on the mission, her. And then if something happens to her, the eyes go straight to that. Now I got to protect. Where people that have been in a combat situation where there have been captures, they get tortured. They get their fingernails ripped out. They get waterboarded. They get all these other things. What do you think is going to happen in a situation like that, where they are special forces and their team gets captured and there's a female in that team? Do you not see the enemy that has no scruples and no value of, especially if it's in, let's say, a combat zone where women are not respected, in a very Muslim country, and women are not respected? Could you imagine what they would do to that woman in front of those men to get them to talk, to get them to say whatever it is they need to say? And it could be some vital information. I could see them physically R-ing that woman in front of them, or attempting to get them to talk, using her as leverage against them. And that's why I really think that there are a lot of positions women can be in and be effective, that are still kind of somewhat in a combat situation, but not full combat. I don't think they should be frontline, and I don't think they should be in special forces. And it doesn't have anything to do with me not thinking that there are capable women to do that, but the majority of them are not. And you get 1.001% of females in the military that might be able to fit up to that, then we shouldn't change policies to fit that one. I think it puts us in a really danger position. it's that. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there. I'm sorry. You're like, okay,
Like way off.
way off. But it is about the male female thing. So
I agree women shouldn't be in combat, but I just don't think I'm one of those people that think that men have their place and women have their place. And like I just don't. I'm not a feminist, like at all. I'm pissed off that some bitch wanted to burn her bra and get a job because now I have to work. Like I'm not. Like
Yeah.
I would have been happy staying home making cookies for real.
Well, and the thing is that I think that if we got, I hate to say it, but if we got back a little bit more to traditional roles, that, and I'm not saying that men can't help clean and that women can't and men can't help cook. You know, my husband does the majority of the cooking, but that's because he enjoys it and he's a good cook. But you know who does not take the trash can out to the road? Moi. I don't take the trash out. I don't even take the trash out of the kitchen. I don't take the trash out of the yard. He does the mowing. He takes care of the yard. He takes care of the pool. Now, does that mean I don't have the capability of going and helping to do that?
Go mow the lawn, or
I can get on the lawnmower and do it,
Exactly.
and I have many a time. The last couple days, I've been out working on the pool, helping to get it clean and getting it ready for spring. But when it comes to the heavy lifting side of that, like he needed to put all the salt in the pool after I cleaned it a little bit today. And he's like going to put I knew the salt needed to go in the pool, but those are 40-pound bags. I'm not picking them up. I'm not doing it. But he knows we do have, for the most part, traditional gender roles, you know, like he does the manly stuff. I do the girly stuff. And together, I may do some of the tougher things, but like I'm forbidden to get on a ladder unless he's home because I will fall. You know, like there are things that you have to acknowledge that, you know, if I can't open a jar, I don't go get a hammer. I hand it to my husband, you know?
Who gets a hammer to open a jar, Tori?
A feminist.
Ever.
A feminist?
Do you dump it upside down and bang it a couple times and
I
there
don't
you go.
Well, I don't know. There was this girl on TikTok.
Hammer? God.
There was a girl on okay, I was trying to be facetious.
Like, wow. Like, no, but I'm like, those girls need help. Like a hammer?
There was a girl on TikTok. She didn't use a hammer. She was showing how how you can't use a regular can opener to open a pickle jar. And she's like, see, I can't get it around it. But then she's like, look, it has this little hook thing on the backside. So you can just put it on there and you can yank really hard and it'll pop that lid right off. And I'm like, bitch, it unscrews. Like, why are you popping it off like that? Have we gotten that far down that you're that stupid you don't know it actually unscrews?
Wow.
And I don't know if it was meant to be a joke.
Maybe.
Or, but
that's pretty,
she seemed pretty serious.
She did?
Yeah, she really didn't look like she was faking it. And the TikTok video that she did, you know how you can stitch them? There was like 3 men watching and they're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm waiting for the one guy to stand there going,
yeah, just twist it off.
twitch. But I mean, I can understand. So think about it from a different level. If she didn't know that and she's a woman, her strength is not as much as a man. So when she sees her husband do it and he just pops that lid right off, he doesn't pop it off, he unscrews it. But she's like, he's not there to do it and she's never had to do it. So she doesn't know, take the end of a knife or whatever and just bap the side of it and it kind of eases the pressure on there and you can pop it right off, and it screws back on when you do that too. The hammer kind of ruins the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Jar and all.
Jar and all,
gone.
just, you know.
Picking shards of glass out of your dill.
Well, you know, I mean, glass lives matter too. Anyway, that is our show. It is crazy.
Yeah, we missed a bunch. But...
It is crazy. Yeah, we didn't even get into Trump buying a Tesla.
No.
So we didn't get into that part of it, but that's okay because you know, we did the part that we really wanted to talk about the other day, which was Megyn Kelly's a tirade. I loved it. I'm sorry, but I absolutely loved that she said what she really felt. And the thing is I think she represents an awful lot of women today because an awful lot of us are so angry. And I think we have to be somewhat honest with ourselves that one of the people we're the angriest at is ourselves, because we allowed this to happen. As part of the population of the U.S., women let it happen to women. And yes, it's more of the leaders, like me and you didn't have any say in it.
Right.
But we sort of did because women weren't fighting back. We weren't standing up for it. We weren't out there burning our city down because of it.
We got blindsided. Like, that's a big issue to get blindsided with. You know, like, you're just tra-la-lying for 50 fucking years, living your life, just a normal day. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, got to know everybody's pronouns. Boom, got to recognize everybody's male or female. Boom, you got to like, what?
Boom,
you know,
and she's a female swimmer.
Yeah,
she's like 12 feet tall.
Yeah, and women are going to be physically hurt. And that's always been my physically, mentally, and emotionally hurt by it all. That's why I said women first, trannies second. Like, that's the natural born cis women.
Well, I'm gonna throw
first.
a different thing in there. It really needs to be women first, then men, and then this other caveat. LGBTQ, whatever you want to call yourself.
No, I mean, I'm talking about like in the women's realm.
Women's space.
Like women, cisgender, natural born women first.
That's it. I don't see
another. Then if you want to add in a side dish over here, you know, with your own Olympics
they're not women.
And your own thing, then do that. And then get your own protections for your own thing.
And that's a separate thing altogether.
But leave the women alone. Just like... leave the men alone too. Let the men have their sports. And do you remember like maybe 20, 25 years ago when there was girls that was that did get onto boys sports teams in high school, and the boys hated it.
The football girl.
And they get hurt, and the boys, their own teammates would hurt them because they didn't want them there, because they knew the weakness that it brought. They knew, maybe not consciously, but like you were saying, the focus is on the goal, on the girl, on the goal, on the girl. So it didn't work out then.
No.
And nobody really supported it then.
And it kind of just went away.
And it did. It dissipated, and it was just
like a feather, just
little
floated away. And
bad idea.
Nobody thought about it again. But that was girls trying to be in boys' spaces.
Yes.
And it didn't work because it just could not work.
Right.
Because girls cannot perform in men's spaces. And when they talk, I mean, there's a whole thing about women and fairness with wages and all that other stuff. And what they do is they take all jobs and then they do this algorithm that says, well, women are paid less than men, period. So it's uneven. Except for they don't do a full account of what the job skills are, because
I make more than most men.
Most women are not in engineering.
Exactly.
So in the engineering field, they're majority men. So they're going to be paid more money. because they don't go into those fields. Now there are, and when I say they don't go into those fields, it doesn't mean none.
Right. Yeah.
But the number 1 out of 10 is a female flying, being a pilot. When you have to and this goes on to that canceling DEI thing that I am all for. Absolutely. Because, flying takes a skill. It takes a special set of skills. And the majority of women don't want to do those skills. It doesn't mean none of them. My mom was a pilot, and my mom was a ceiling breaker pilot. She was a pilot in the early 60s. My mom was the first woman to get her she wasn't the first woman to get her pilot's license, let's be clear, but she was the first woman on the West Coast to get her instructor pilot's license. She was the first woman in the West Coast to get a commercial pilot's license. And I've never gone and pulled the stats to compare it to the other parts of the country. But I know on the West Coast, because she was in the newspaper, I've got newspaper articles on her and everything. They didn't even have flight suits then. My mom was a model. My mom's modeling career is what paid for her to become a pilot. Now, granted, it wasn't as expensive as it is today, but my mom was very, very solo person. She's not a real socialite. She working in that field is very solo. And most women don't do well in that realm because they like to be around other women and they like to talk and they like to do things. And men do well as pilots because it's a solo job. You have a headset on, you listen for things, you talk to the tower, you talk to your crew, and you are focusing on flying. You're not sitting there talking about the brownies you made yesterday. Nobody gives a shit. I don't want to hear about your brownies. And my mom flew Elvis on her plane. So my mom's flown multiple astronauts. My mom's been on Air Force One. My mom flew with the Hungarian Air Force. My mom has done a lot of really cool things as a woman, but it's because her personality was very male-like in that realm. So you can't compare, you're comparing apples to oranges when it comes to men and women and the wages and stuff like that, because the majority of them don't choose jobs that are very male-oriented jobs. It's like when I became a police officer and I had to take my background, or not my background, but my psychological, the questions on there about being male and female. Like they would ask a question like, I'm a woman and I'm proud to be a woman. Yes. No. Yes. And then they would have a picture 1 or 2 questions away, and it says, I would rather, and it would have 2 images. You had to pick one. I would rather be doing this one or this one. And the 2 images were like a man with a backpack on and a walking stick in shorts and hiking boots, and a woman with a dress on and an apron ironing. Now, I would rather be hiking than ironing. A baby on the hip baking a cake or canoeing. I'd rather be canoeing. So the guy literally said to me, according to this, you're a liar. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because you said you're a woman, but you picked all the male things. And I'm like, I'm becoming a cop. Like, should I be a girly girl? Like, I'm a tough girl.
Are you gonna show up to a scene with a fucking batch of brownies and some...
Hey, everybody, stop fighting! I got brownies! Like, what's gonna happen there? That's ridiculous.
Okay, you hold the brownies while I put these handcuffs on your wrist. Okay, hon? Okay, all right.
Don't worry. When I get you in the back of the car, you can have one of my fresh brownies. Don't they smell so good? Here, just lift the napkin. Take a good whiff of that. Oh, you just want to get in the back of the car, don't you? I mean, like, is that how it needs to be? Like,
and that's insane for them to score like that.
Yeah, like it.
I would rather be be hiking or canoeing or
and the images were like 1950s dress clothing, the little miniature colored pictures of like the what was the magazine where they would sell the ovens and stoves and stuff, and the ads from back then? It looked just like those. Looked exactly like that, like the ironing board and irons. And this was the 90s. It was not a 90s image of a woman. It was the 1950s image of a woman. Like, no, I do not want to be that. So he's like, according to this, you're a man. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not.
But according to that too, I also like to do shit outdoors and be active. Like that's what.
And I'm like not a Susie homemaker. Well, that's probably a good thing since I'm like applying to be a cop and not a teacher.
That's insane.
Like the insanity of it in itself was ridiculous. But you get the majority of people that are going into certain fields are because they are male oriented, have the majority men. The ones that and it's not to say there aren't tough women that can be cops. Like I do get a little bit offended being that I was a female police officer and I was a tough cop when I was one. But I also didn't stick it out. I didn't stay in that field for the longest time. And most of the female cops, now there was a lot of male cops that were out of shape and not to par either. But 99.9% of the time, I would definitely have needed a man to help at some point. You know, so you can't say that all women can do all things the same as men. And equally, I don't necessarily want a bunch of men staying home being the stay-at-home dad. You know,
that's weird too.
I see the stay-at-home dads and the kids are going to grow up like playing video games and like he's not going to teach them how to cook. He's going to teach them how to play video games and how to rig the lawnmower with a remote control or some bullshit, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, anyway, that is our show. Thank you for being here. And we appreciate having you here. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow. All of our socials is Girl Talks, GURLTAUX, and because we're going to talk about it. And we will see you again tomorrow at 7. We are here from 7 to 7:30, Monday through Friday. We take our weekends off. Thank you and have a great night. Talk to you soon. And tomorrow is hump day. So enjoy your hump day. Bye, y'all.
Thank you for watching Girl Talks live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see